Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Today is a very special day because it marks my 7-year natural bodybuilding transformation. And to be honest, I'm not sure about the exact day, but I know it was sometime in the later half of July 2018 that I did my very first training session, consisting only of negative pull-ups at home, and I never looked back since then. I kept adding on, progressing and growing in all kinds of ways since then. And anyone that's been following me and Uncommon Sense for a longer time knows that this wasn't just a physical transformation, and honestly I don't think it ever is for anyone because it's all connected, body, mind and soul, right? But I'm someone with a particular story of having been a very different person, hitting rock bottom in life due to poor lifestyle and unprocessed trauma, and some things we will get into in this video, but getting panic attack syndrome, daily panic attacks that were so brutal that they had me on the brink of suicide. I was forced to confront it, finally trying to do something differently for once in my life, coming out on the other side, and among other things, finding the process of natural bodybuilding as a cornerstone in what I call holistic bodybuilding, the process I've practiced and taught to others since, where, well, natural bodybuilding, hypertrophy training, cardio, or just being active, a good healthy diet, good sleep, later on also the sun, that part is a cornerstone of the process, but it's this larger work on the self. It's not really bodybuilding, it's person building, right? So in this video I want to talk through the entire process, take everything that was significant, even about the training, different steps of that journey, things for me personally, like relationships, both with girls and generally other things I had to, because there are so many things I've had to discover and be challenged with, even throughout these years, and change about myself and level up on different levels. And so I'll try to bring up everything significant and not spend too much time on anything that, you know, doesn't warrant it. I'm sure I'm still gonna forget something that I feel is important. But before I get into it, I want to say that the reason I like to do storytelling like this is not only the fact that I'm self-obsessed, that I just loved talking about myself. It's because I know that in the end, we're all on a journey. It's a process of change with things. Like, even if we take just a thing like training, it's not the thing like, oh, you know, I watched some Jeff Nippert videos, and I followed some training, he said, and some dieting, he said, and I got jacked after a year. It's always a process of, you know, oh, I couldn't fully be consistent, or I struggled with this, or I didn't quite find it out, or da 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 da. So telling a story of what it looked like, that's, you know, that's what it actually looks like. The sets and reps and exercises and training programs, it all matters. But on the way to being someone that's like very good at adhering to this, there are many different things, and many people can relate to different points of a story, right? So I have one video called something like, it's a like channel trailer for his channel now, something like Depressed Loser to Jack and Stack Gigashot, some typical Theo title, right? But there I go actually back to my childhood. Now I just want to do the kind of prologue before starting the training, right? So I was someone that always struggled with anxiety and depression since very early on in life, on and off, and I think we all have ups and downs in life, but I've definitely, even since I was a way less developed person, with, you know, just less functional, less good person, more wounded person, everything. I'm someone that always had ups and downs. So even when I say that I experienced anxiety and depression from early, it wasn't all the time, right? And it can still happen, but it's just now it doesn't happen as frequently, and I'm way more functional in what I call a low state, which would be a more depressive state, for instance, right? But so the point is that I was very lost in life. Anything I ever did, I never knew. I was kind of gifted in school, but I never knew what I wanted to do with anything. And I ended up just any job or anything I studied, it was just to, you got to do something, make a living or have an occupation somehow. And then really most of my time is spent on escaping reality through vices like drinking, smoking weed, chasing girls, which I'm somewhat successful with. Never was the one that got all the girls, never was the one that was completely without. But of course, porn as well, binging, TV series, video games, turning the days upside down. You know, just a hedonist lifestyle, escape through reality. What I didn't realize, of course, you're numbing your pain, right? You're trying to escape pain, and you do all that shit. But so, at a point when I was 25, I had really not been doing well for a long time then. And of course, now the years of getting older, so you're not going to get away with a poor lifestyle as much, still have unprocessed trauma. I've studied journalism that I realized that I absolutely do not want to work with. Oh, I wasted time with that. Oh, I'm still kind of hurt, or, haven't gotten over a relationship. I was the one that wanted out initially, but then I wanted back. Kind of classic for guys. That she would want to take me back then, right? So it all came tumbling down pretty much. And I had this first panic attack on a temporary customer service job that I had. And it was insane. It was you cannot be prepared for something like that. It feels, the way to describe it for someone that has never experienced something like that, it's like you're thrown into a psychedelic trip gone wrong, but you haven't taken anything, and that's part of why it's so scary. Like, what the fuck is going on, And I know some people that get panic attacks, they actually think they're dying, but I always knew that, no, I'm not dying, I'm just having, like, my body is having the experience of it, but I felt like a threat to myself. Like, this is so uncomfortable that if it doesn't stop, I don't know that I can go on with it, right? And this first panic attack, it was the most, all the ones after that were terrible, but the first one was the most shocking. Like, it left me in a state of shock that I was almost, even without the full-blown panic attack on the other days, I was in sort of a mild panic state. If I wasn't acutely occupied with something, I kind of felt like I was seeing myself from the outside. And it was like, this uncomfortable feeling. So I just knew for once. I knew many things I should have faced, should have done. Like even the gym, right? I should take better care of myself. I had stage fright, which was a big pain for me because, as you see, I'm kind of made to be the center of attention and stand and deliver something to an audience, right? But I felt crippled by fear of this, that I now know is fear of abandonment, rejection, showing your true authentic self and being rejected and abandoned for it, right? So I knew many things that I should have faced that somehow, that I should have gone to the gym, but this was now so brutal. That was like, even when now things were 1,000 times worse, I just knew that I have to face it now. So I came up with sort of the perfect program for this. And I call it now, in hindsight, that I knew that I have to keep trying to go to work, because otherwise this will be my comfort zone, never leaving the house. I'll have to live here or be a medicated zombie or end up killing myself, right? So I went on sick leave for 50%, so I get a break, but I had this routine that I have to get up, try to get to work, without having a panic attack, be there for half the day and then go home. And this, this did not work out many days. I had to turn around when I come down to the subway, see all the people. Sometimes I make my way to the work, but I have to go earlier. It was not linear. And why this is also relevant to the bodybuilding process and everything like that is that I kind of understood people that have a perfectionist mindset that all of us struggle with to some degree, but it's something I see so much now being a coach, that many people, it's like, if they cannot adhere to a plan perfectly, if they start out doing everything they're supposed to and do some kind of mistake, it's like, now I lost it. They just start going in the other direction or abandoning it completely, right? And I am also someone that struggles with that. But in this spot, it was like I just had to accept that it's not linear. I managed to go to work and be there the whole day, this day, and it felt like a win. And today I can't even get there. I can't even get to the subway. And I just had to be completely humble and be like, I just had to keep trying to get up. So you see, I from this, I kind of learned the pattern of progress, that it isn't linear. If your condition on yourself to get somewhere is that you're perfect, you're never going to get anywhere, okay? Because no one is perfect. No one is God. So, fast forward, there was the work, but then were situations in this choir I was in when I had to face this panic over and over and over and over. Of course, at times, I kept doing things I wasn't supposed to, like escape, go out and get drunk and that. But I started having to pay such a high price for it because I was already in such a poor state. Being hungover, it was like, okay, it's brutal. I getting through the day without killing myself is the goal now, pretty much. So I kind of gradually did less of those things. And there just came a point where, after like 4 months of this, which was in like June, because I started training then in July, right, where it's like, hey, I actually don't get panic attacks anymore. And I still feel very worn out. Like, what I realize now is that even at such a young age, you're burnt out. It's a modern world, with all the things. It's easier to get burnt out earlier in life, right? But so I was in a very weakened state still, but I was grateful. I felt like, man, I thought my life was over. I literally thought it was over. I kept trying and trying and trying, and it felt like it didn't lead to really anything. I was given this second chance. So finally, after just like, I don't really remember initially what I'm doing at that point, because I've quit the job at that point. But at some point in July, I'm like, I gotta give this with eating a healthier diet and training a go. You know, they say that affects even mental health, which now, because I felt so stupid so soon after I did a very simple life changes of just not buying complete junk food all the time, eating what I thought was a decent diet at the time. You know, chicken, rice, broccoli could summarize what most of my meals look like on average, which is, of course, it's not the most nutrient dense, but it's a way upgrade from, you know, this fucking pizza with kebab and some garlic sauce and maybe fries and, you know, these terrible things, right? And I just start these negative pull-ups following a progression scheme 3 times per week. That's all I do. And I go on some walks, right? And just 2 weeks in, it's not like a huge change, but I feel definitely like, okay, I feel better. And there's definitely a difference. When I was, for instance, at the subway station where I had some associations with the panic attacks, and I see a lot of people, when it felt like what could have boiled over in the past, it really felt like, I've said many times now, there was a lid on the pot. And I felt so stupid that I'm like, man, how could I not realize that, of course, if you upgrade the hardware, even problems that might be internal, like mental, of course your body is going to be stronger, better equipped to handle it. So ever since, I just knew this is the path now. I have to keep going on this path. So now if we try to fast forward from what a process looked like, is that at the start there, the chicken, rice, broccoli, more of a mainstream fitness diet is what I'm following. I gradually add on exercises to these workouts like push-ups. I can't recall everything now, but Bulgarian split squats I found was it's a great exercise in general, but of course accessible at home. I did have some adjustable dumbbells, so I would do some curls, some ab exercises. Like I said, can't recall everything, but that's a few different workouts consisting of these kinds of exercises is what I do at home at the start. And after a while, I realized that I should probably, because I was skinny fat. Kind of interesting thing is I weigh 83 kilos now. Like I'm really quite lean. But I weighed something like 83 back then. So it's a very different body composition. So that's just kind of funny. But I realized that I should probably also focus on losing weight. So I went on a keto diet, because the one time in my life before I ever consciously tried to lose weight, that's what had worked without really counting. Just the elimination diet part, I think of it. You know, I don't really think there's something super magic to keto, but if you remove carbs, like that restriction often leads to a calorie deficit, right? So I lost some weight from that, then it stalled, then I started counting calories for a deficit, lost some more, then it stalled, then I started actively, not only going on walks here and there, starting every day with going on a really long walk in the forest. I was finishing my journalism studies because I had been so close. If I was like halfway through, I probably would have abandoned it, but I had like one term left. But I could do most things on distance. So I had this time to focus on these things, is the point. So I would take this very long walk, and then there just came a point where I felt I cannot lose more weight now. And probably I put that transformation picture in here. I will see if I even have time or space on the phone to, I'm not at home. So we'll see. But I put it in the last video. At that point, 4 or 5 months in, I have some abs. I have a little bit of shoulder, shape to my body. But I'm not big. I'm neither as big or lean as I am now. But at that point, I started going to a gym, and I also started bulking. Like now I'm going to gain, right? First, because I spent all this time also studying a lot on YouTube, just plowing through tons and tons and tons of fitness content. And I was determined, because I saw what everyone is confused with, also that I'm no longer confused with, but what we call paralysis by analysis. There's so many different things that get said in fitness content. It's like, what is the actual truth? And these things, there are certain things that are not quite clear. Like, how long should you rest between sets? And can you rest too long? If you train a set too hard, can you rest too long so it doesn't count? Is there like a minimum you should wait and a maximum and blah, 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 all these things. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to have to fucking find out. And this is another thing that I've learned about the perfectionist mindset. People want to have a perfect plan. They want to feel like they know exactly what they're doing from the start, but it's impossible. Even if someone hands you what will be the theoretical optimal plan, you will be doubting and not being sure about many things. So I was just like, I'll just try what I do at the time, and then I'll change and adapt as it goes. So I went on a push-pull-legs program, pretty much. And of course, the thing about all of this was that I started training this time around just to feel good. But when I was younger, before I gave up on all the physical stuff, I would say beyond like high school, I started remembering that I actually wanted to be a fit guy, look a certain way. But then it was completely driven by what we could say are narcissistic reasons. I want to mainly feel attractive to girls, right? Some part of like being cool for guys, but mainly feel attractive to girls. Now I got better results than I ever got back then, but with a completely different focus. So that's why I could have fun with the bodybuilding process, but never make it be the end all be all. Like I'm trying to look a certain way to achieve some kind of goal. It just become kind of like measure. That's why I think bodybuilding is such a great tool for self-development overall, because you literally see yourself improve in the mirror. You see your numbers go up in the gym, you get stronger, and you see the look develop in the mirror. And when you lose weight also, of course, you see everything get more and more defined. But so if we're going to fast forward a bit, I kept adhering to what's more or less like a mainstream fitness diet. My training style, it was decent. Compound exercises, bench press, weighted chin-ups, pull-ups, rows, squats, deadlift variations, with some isolation exercises, right? But my style initially, just because I was misinformed, and because my tendency, I've never been a complete ego lifter, but I always, and I've had to learn many times, I am a guy that tends to do too much rather than too little when I try something. Like when I don't get poor results because I do too little. I get poor results in the sense that I do so much that, it goes well until something breaks, And so initially, it's not really that something breaks, but I got really stiff. While I got all the physical, like I look good, I feel good, I have good high energy levels, but I'm like stiff in my body. And we're going to come to how I adjusted later. But so a bit past the 1 year mark, that's when I find fasting, prolonged fasting. I'm just so curious about so many things when it comes to health and fitness. So talking about how I did with fasting could be such a long story, but pretty much I first tried one 5-day fast. I thought it was going to be just a one-off thing I did, but then I was so curious that I did many different experiments with fasts. And at the same time was also when I started looking at some carnivore content. I started to become a little bit more I had, like everyone had from conditioning from society, some just vague idea I shouldn't eat too much red meat. And I started realizing that, hey, these foods like eggs and red meat, they are really important. And I started to become a little bit of a carbophobe at the time. Like, well, I train a lot. I realize overweight people maybe shouldn't eat too many carbs. But I train a lot, so I should have some carbs, but not too many. Okay, I did my best to squeeze everything major, like the overview of everything in here, but obviously I didn't finish everything, like with a diet, for instance. So what I'll do is the things that, like my diet philosophy, my training program and style at the time of that, I'll just link some other videos in the description for those that want a deeper dive into those things. But what I noticed from all the fasting was that up until this point, it had taken a lot of discipline for me to adhere to a good diet. I think because both the perfectionist in me and that I come from this rock bottom place made me able to push through a lot, both with training that I didn't feel like doing initially, like every workout, I don't want to. I find reasons to delay it a bit, but I ended up going almost all of the time. Same thing with diet. I had to use a lot of willpower to adhere to a good diet. A few slip-ups, but in the grand scheme of things, I was quite... I complied with what I was supposed to quite a bit, but it took so much willpower. And after going through all the experiments with fasting, fasting for certain durations and planning out my refeeds very on point with good food, I noticed that when I wasn't fasting, I really, now I didn't crave any junk food anymore because all the good, healthy home food started just tasting amazing. Like I didn't miss anything. I also noticed that I don't really struggle with hunger anymore. If I have to go a bit longer without eating, it's just fine, right? But so, like with many things that I get into, I got a little bit too fanatic about the fasting. So even when I didn't do the prolonged fasting, I wanted to have like a really tight eating window, like eating twice in a 4-hour eating window, like eating a smaller meal, training, eating the huge meal, and trying to adhere to it like that. And I tried many things like having a weekly 48-hour fast and just eating enough on the other days and that. This is a few months where my muscle gains kind of stalled. Like I got stronger on some things, but yeah, all the fasting too frequently. It just prevented me from really putting on any muscle mass. You just mentioned briefly some strength stuff. I can't remember exactly, but I know that within the first time of ever trying a deadlift in a gym, because I've been training at home, of course, for 4 or 5 months, but starting to do these exercises like a bench press and deadlift. I took 200 kilos on a deadlift within 1 year of doing it. I took a 100 kilo bench press within 1 year. I think I had a 2-plate weighted chin up. Squats, first of all, it's something I forget, but I had adductor pain when I started, so I really couldn't do squats properly. I tried many times, but I had to keep Bulgarian split squats as a main until I could do that. And it's never been an exercise I've been so interested in doing 1-rep maxes, because I also nowadays, for instance, I do high bar squats, front squats, and ass to grass. It's not about moving the most amount of weight. It's about moving the most amount of weight with a good form on this kind of exercise, right? But just to throw some numbers out there. But so at the point, because I started, when you've done something like that fast a lot, you're kind of afraid of letting go of it. But so at what would be like the 1.5 year mark of this, I was like, well, okay, I'll get back to fasting. Nothing is happening now with muscle for some months. I have to try bulking. And it was obvious. I kept intermittent fasting, eating like 3 meals in an 8-hour eating window, just quite large meals. And in a calorie surplus, and it was obvious that my muscle gains started to explode again. And at my 2-year mark, I would say that I managed to accomplish what I would call like a shape like the current one I have. Just I was still way smaller, like looking pretty much like this. What can I have weighed? Like 75 kilos instead of 83. Maybe not quite as lean, so almost, but you see what I mean. Close to it. And I guess now I'm talking so much about the training, should mention a little bit just the social stuff and that there's, when you do such a drastic life change, there's going to be lots of friction between, your old circle, the way you used to be and your new you. A lot of people, many people that are happy for you, but many people that kind of try to pull you in the wrong direction too, right? And some people that are happy for you, they might be happy for you, but you still, it's like, don't have the same interests and values and priorities anymore. So there's a big disconnect where I try so much to be in situations where I used to be with friends, and I end up just feeling a lot of the time that I don't even like this, And so I started, and I think there is a lot like that with a spiritual awakening, like I would call it, that I had, that you have to first cut people off more than it's about adding new people in. And I ended up being quite solo many times, doing lots of things on my own. And we'll get back to that too. Like I always had some friends, and I'm social. I would talk to people and stuff, but many things would be like, I just do this by myself. I train by myself. I do this by myself, and so on, right? And so something I cannot get in too deep into, but around the 2-year mark of the training too is when I got, oh yeah, that's a part about girls and stuff I should mention too, that I'd been someone that now I know it's from like a mother wound, like trauma, specifically from my mother, that I love my mother, things are much better now. It was just a case of how things were. When you have that kind of trauma, you try to look for the love you felt was lacking from the feminine often by trying to hook up with girls, or at least getting attention, validation from girls. And that's had been something, when I was the lost person, that was like the mission I always had, to try to make myself feel better, try to hook up with some girl, right? Which I was, again, like I said, more or less successful with at times. Never the guy that got all the girls, never the guy that went completely without. And something I noticed coming out on the other side of the panic attacks was that it's not that I lost my sex drive, but I just didn't have this need, this like be on the lookout for the next girl all the time. But on routine, I ended up sleeping with, I think, like a couple of girls within like the first half year of this training that I say. I just was like, it was just kind of a waste of time. But it felt weird, because all I knew is that guys are supposed to want to sleep with girls, even when I feel less like it. It's like, is it even okay that I don't even feel like this, But so I was in this choir, and this is like at the 1.5 year mark, a bit over 1 year into it. We're actually in the city I'm in now for a competition, and went out afterwards, and I was drinking a bit more than I had in some time. I'd been cutting down on all that stuff, First consciously and feeling like I have to for the fitness, there's also a part that when you have less pain to escape, you kind of naturally don't want to do those things as much. So I did it a bit more for once, but still way less than I would have in a similar situation back in the day. And I ended up going home with, like, first time I'm like out in a club really with this new body of mine, which is still, I was so much smaller and everything compared to now, but I was in good shape, you know. And it's this girl that thinks I'm so hot, you know. And we go to her place, and all the time it's like she's asking me, how many people have you slept with? And I'm like, well, I think maybe around 20. And she's like, oh, okay, I've slept with these many. I'm like thinking to myself, don't tell me that. You're 19, like so many. But we go home with her, and it's like she's putting on this big act, right? Like she was definitely attracted to me, but the behavior, the way she moans and moves and everything she does, it's like she's imitating a porno and doing what, you know, the performance act that I could see that I always did too. Like I was very big on trying to please the girl, right? I felt like validated if I can make her come, right? But fake people only fool other fake people, and the less fake you become, the less appealing it is to other people that are faking it. And so I went just feeling like this is a fucking waste of time. And yeah, I'm not deciding that I'm going into a celibacy until I get married, but pretty much like I'm not going to spend any time and focus on this in a long time now. But so around the 2-year mark there of my training process, I got to know this girl first on distance that I really fell in love with, right? And everything was beautiful. Like she's really, you know, I don't want to look at it like that with when you're looking for a girlfriend or boyfriend, you know, with this like list of demands, like these are the traits the person has to have, and like you're hiring someone for a job. But if I were to do that exercise, like she checked all the boxes and like every bonus box I could ever make up, right? I am deeply in love with her, and that's a story that I cannot get too much into. You know, things just went to hell there. I had to find out that she had some, you know, pain. Let's just say pain. And it was very clear to me what it was all about, but it put me in a very difficult situation where it was very difficult for me. And yeah, I'll just say, you know, there's never been a thing like there's cheating or being with someone else, or, you know, I'm too, I don't know, I'm too, what is it called? You know, like the point is that it was all about a very tragic situation. But so there was never any overstep of any like moral wrongdoing to me, that like cheating, for instance, because that's a big one for me, that it would hurt me a lot, but I would be like, okay, I'm out of here. If you've seen someone else with this, I would never. So okay, I'm hurt, but I'm out of here. So I was in this very difficult situation where I felt like I had to put up with things that really hurt me, though. It was really difficult for me because I understood her pain. And this has been a thing that I have to learn, like realize many things about myself, certain like savior complex that I have, and being able to let go, kind of be able to let someone lose you, even if you love them and you see their pain, you understand, not sacrifice yourself for nothing. If it doesn't work, you know, at a certain point, you have to let go. And this has been kind of an on and off thing, and we are on good terms now. And you never know how that's going to turn out, but I've actually finally been able, there were many years where I had to move on from it, but I really never truly did. Like I maybe managed to feel okay, but I never really processed it, and now I've actually come to a point where it's like, well, I love her. It would be beautiful if it works out, but it's clear that it would have to be her that like comes to me, gets her shit together, and finally, but I actually feel okay about the whole thing, moving on like that. But so that's of course the thing over years that's been on and off. But that was when that happened first. That was the first time that I really felt terrible for the first time after having overcome the panic thing. Like, yeah, I thought naively that, not that I'm done developing as a person, but I'll never end up in a position where I feel that poorly again. And I've had to realize that throughout the years, you know, the thing about me huffing and puffing myself up to jack the stack gig at Chad and playing into being arrogant and stuff, it is a genuine part of my personality, right? That I like joking that way. I know people like that too. But I can also see that at times I've actually fall over the border and become arrogant, thought too highly of myself, or not just thinking too highly of myself, but you know, how should I put it? Being careless, you know, putting high expectations, assuming, going so far in the direction, putting myself in a position where like, I'm feeling great, look at me guys, like let's do all of this, yeah. And then having to fall so hard and feeling so unable to live up to that, and feeling shameful, having to lick my wounds, retreat into the cave for a bit, and then come out and sort of build back to the old thing. And I'm gradually learning to, that's what I'm saying. I've been a person with ups and downs, trying to learn to stay closer to the center, like sacrifice some highs. Not go full, when I am what I call a high state, not completely go full giga trad arrogant Theo, you know, and then fall so hard, but actually pull myself back a little bit sooner so that the fall isn't so fucking big, you know. Oi, 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 guys, everything got so hectic now. I was erasing some clips on my phone to free up space to be able to export the video, and I accidentally erased the clip I had put here, where basically later in this video I'm going to talk about a hyper-independence trait I've seen in myself that many people will be able to relate to, and I just wanted to say something about it related to girls as well. That, of course, being involved with this amazing girl but very difficult situation on and off, since I am not someone that just wants to date multiple girls or just sleep with girls, but actually have one great girl to team up with, being involved in that, this sort of twin flame situation that I know it sounds super gay, but if you look into the lore and have that kind of experience, it's just undeniable that that's what it is. But of course that kept me away from, I would go on a date here and there kind of forcefully to try to move on, but mostly kept to myself, right? And then even having moved on from that, obviously I've noticed that I am the most attractive man I've ever been. I definitely get female attention, but subconsciously it's a strategy, right? That when you have felt like let down by people or hurt, whether that's romantically and in other ways, it's sort of a subconscious strategy to either put like quite high standards, you say, on who you want to meet, or just keep away from situations where that will happen, not really go after it, right? So that's something I've been able to, had to face, that even after moving on from this thing, I've sort of just kept myself from seeing girls, and that's another thing I've been working on, to just go out of my way to meet more girls. And I have dated someone recently that I'm not super excited about or anything, but it's definitely a great girl. But yeah, I wanted to put that in there. This is definitely a big part for the story. And of course, the haters that I get, the main things that I get hate for is, of course, like, oh, you're lying, you're on steroids, you're not natural, that's impossible, you're fake natty. Or, oh, you're narcissist, arrogant, you're too full of yourself, and you have ego issues, blah, blah. And the latter thing is like, oh, well, girls don't even want you anyway, you're coping with a body. But of course, it was never getting this body this time around, was never about girls. When I was that wounded little boy looking for female validation in the past, it would have been. And of course, the people that will say things like this are wounded little boys. But yeah, wanted to squeeze that in there for the second time because I accidentally erased the clip. Let's get on. And the hyper-independence thing, like, it's a little messy now, but it will all make sense. I'll get to that later. So that was a tough time, but with the training, what started happening, well, first of all, I had a shoulder injury, a stupid shoulder injury that I just pushed through. This was like a 1 year in. I started to feel more and more sharp pain here. Idiot as I am, I ignore it until something actually breaks. And I had to spend 1 year on rehabbing this. Then, as soon as I've done that, I have an accident. That wasn't so much about being dumb, but I hurt my left shoulder. I have to go through the same fucking thing with that. And still, apart from the injuries, I noticed this. I'm so fucking stiff all the time. I get all the effects I want from the training, except that I feel like my body's like all tight. So I started thinking a lot about I should implement some more mobility, but it didn't really happen. And I realized I could learn this the way I learned the other hypertrophy training by myself through YouTube and stuff. But I happened to get to know a person, a Swedish guy, that was a mobility coach. So I just hired him, knowing myself that was at the time. You see how I don't have time to tell everything I'd like to tell in such a video. But I've become a personal trainer. I understand the value of coaching, that apart from getting, quick route, speed run towards knowledge, the right thing to do, and the accountability and someone pushing you, it's also the accountability of the investment, right? So when I pay my friend and I get the program that I don't have to figure out after he's done some assessments of me, I know he's gonna be following my process, and I've invested. Now I have to prioritize the mobility, right? So I put for 3 months the strength stuff, hypertrophy stuff, on the back burner. Like on an upper body session, for instance, I would do like 3 sets of weighted chin-ups, 3 sets of weighted dips, and then now it's all mobility. And so I learned a lot from that. I improved my mobility, and I adapted my style of training. That I realized, like, okay, I said before, that I've not been a huge ego lifter, but tended to do too much. So on a squat, for instance, rather than taking a weight I'm sure I can get good depth with, maybe I take just a little bit too much, so I cut it just a little bit above parallel. Now I started adjusting my entire training style. So as often as possible, I emphasize the stretch position, which I also noticed was good for hypertrophy. But it also made it so that even without focusing so much on mobility training, I really improved my mobility from my hypertrophy training. And so I'll say this, just to summarize, that throughout these years, I think that this is a thing when you learn anything, you're on a journey, that you're going to get to these points where you feel like, I know how this works. You know, when I started going to the gym, had a decent push-pull legs program, doing progressive overload, putting on muscle on my entire body, I feel like I know completely what I'm doing. But then you end up at these points, it's sort of the Dunning-Kruger thing, like a similar thing, that suddenly something is revealed to you, and you just realize that, shit, I didn't know nearly as much as I thought. Because, you know, the more you know about something, the more you realize the things you don't know. So I've had these moments where I like kind of doubt things, also because of things I hear, you know, that maybe I train too hard, you know, maybe you can overtrain. Maybe I should, for certain muscles, keep it a little bit back and do more volume, because this person says that. Kind of same thing with fasting that I got into. I got so many good effects from it that I started hearing some people talk shit about it. Like, you know, it's not really good for this. It's so much of a stress on the body for this and that. I'm like, oh, maybe fasting isn't as good as I thought. But many of these things, that's why I'm so big on, you know, trusting your own experience over fucking everything, you know, that you can take in and listen to stuff outside of you. But if the whole world contradicts your experience, I mean, of course, if the whole world literally contradicts something you think, I mean, maybe you should question it. But, you know, like maybe you're on some kind of ego trip. But many times with these things, I just conclude that no, the way I always started training at a really high intensity to failure and beyond, you know, it is working for me. I don't give a shit that some people say, oh, you should keep these many reps in reserve, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with fasting. When I did more fast, and it was undeniable. It was so easy for me as a tool to lose weight, and I got so many other good effects from it. I'm like, no, I don't give a shit what anyone says about fasting, right? But so with training, I had these different moments when I ended up, I go from feeling I know exactly how this works, not that I couldn't improve, but as in the grand scheme of things, I know exactly how things work, and suddenly ending up at some points where, was I wrong? You know, should I do things differently? But I would say that when I had been training, after going through this mobility process, so pretty much halfway into this 7-year process, ever since I've learned a lot, I've improved and fine-tuned things, but ever since I've actually felt like, no, I know how to make progress with these things. Like if progress somehow stalls, I know the exact ways I should adapt. And yeah, I felt like I had things under control there. And so I would summarize my training style from this point as, you know, it's always been holistic bodybuilding, right? The bodybuilding is always a part of a larger self-development practice. You know, I use, even looking at these things, that, you know, I tend to take on too much in the gym. You know, I tend to push myself too hard, take too much weight, and I injure myself, I hurt myself. One part of the holistic bodybuilding is to realize that how you do something is how you do everything. I started realizing maybe I do these things in my life in general, like with the girl I told you, like, maybe it's good that I want to try hard, both with the training and in a relationship. But if I take on too much and actually hurt myself, it's no longer good. I need to learn to pull back. But other than this, more in a training sense, I've never also been like, oh, I want to bodybuild, and that's all I care about. Like, I'll shape my training process just towards the one goal of bodybuilding. It's like, no, it's if I put anything of the outcomes I want at the top of the hierarchy is bodybuilding, but at the same time, I'd like to have good mobility, that my body feels good. I like to feel skilled. You know, I'd like to have fun with it. I like to do things that are fun. So, you know, I would opt more often for, like, for instance, a free weighted squat than a leg press, because I feel like it's more athletic. I have to actually stabilize my core. I just don't sit and push and blow up my quads. Nothing wrong with implementing it, but I want to at least have something like that for everything. And then I can put some machines in the mix. But I also love bodyweight stuff. Weighted bodyweight stuff has always been part of my program. I started implementing stuff with rings that you will have seen in some clips I roll on some recent videos of mine. And so this is sort of my style with bodybuilding training, that yes, bodybuilding, a high goal, but apart from the personal development, holistic perspective, no, I actually want to feel like I learn some skills and I can move well with my body. And I'll say this too, aesthetics to me is not just about my body looking a certain way. It's me looking a certain way. You know, when I do my front squats now, with great control, ass to grass, you know, I stop and I explode up. You know, I think it looks fucking cool. You know, I prefer to do that other than like a low bar squat and, you know, using all my hips. But both for bodybuilding reasons and just aesthetic reasons, I just don't think that looks cool at all, right? But so, yeah, the training, there's not too much to say from the 3.5 year mark. It's like fine-tuning, finding new exercises that might work a little bit better for me, stuff like this. I mean, I could get into realizing the more developed you get, you're gonna notice your like weak points. I notice I'm quite yoke dominant, like the chest, the shoulders, the upper back has always been easy for me to build. I noticed that the lats, while I had developed them, okay, my traps tend to take over many things, so I had to kind of find what works for me better there. There are some little things like that. But let's talk a little bit about things that are not bodybuilding and training also. I should say one last thing before I move on. The system that I sort of found, that I followed pretty much without exceptions since even before I've hit my 2-year mark of training, is that throughout the year, I will, if we start at the end of the summer, so what I will be coming up after August now, is then I start bulking. I really start eating more to gain weight and push progress in the gym. I will mostly apply the double progression. You know, you have a rep range that you add reps with the same weight on an exercise between workouts until you get to the higher end of the rep range. Now it's time to add on weight, and you redo it, start over at the lower end of the rep range. That's the main thing I do. And I have this Christmas fast that ends up being a sort of mini cut, a 5-day fast, but it's not the main purpose. It's more like a physical and mental reset for the new year. Plane, get a little distracted. But of course, since it's happening at the perfect time, that it will be a sort of a little mini cut for the bulk. I'll go back to my calorie surplus, start bulking, or keep bulking and put on weight and make progress in the gym. And somewhere around early spring, or not early, but like mid-spring, I will start cutting, which I do in part with prolonged fasting. It will take me up to 2 months to cut to a level where I'm happy. Then during the summer, that's where I will kind of let go of the whole pushing in either direction with losing fat or building muscle, and sort of enjoy a better look for a while. I often end up losing more weight and getting even leaner because I'm so active in the summer. But maybe focus more on some skill goals, like maybe prepare for some exercises that I'm going to push more later, you know, when the bulk season starts again. Now I've practiced on muscle ups. I improved on that, which is more of a skill goal. It's not something, if you're good enough on pull-ups and dips, it's not like you have to be in a calorie surplus to make progress with muscle ups. In fact, it would make it more difficult. Now, it's a lot of technique, but it would have been easier for me to learn a muscle up when I weighed less. But I've gotten some good progress there. But this, you see, this yearly cycle is the one I followed for basically 5-6 years, if you will. But let's talk about some other things that I've had to realize on more a personal level. You know, I talked about how you first have to cut off people, right? When you start changing and you just see people pulling you in another direction, if you want to go with the mass where the mainstream is going, then, you know, that's a sacrifice. If you don't want to be alone, you know, that's going to be the sacrifice, that everyone around you is pulling in a different direction. It's going to influence you, at the very least, that you will not feel like you fit in, but maybe actually keep you from going in the direction you want. And the sacrifice might be that you have to be a bit more of a loner for some time. But that's something I've had to realize about myself, that even though I'm very social, I'm very extroverted, it comes very naturally to me. Like you see in this video, how I can just talk and realize things. Oh, I didn't say this yet. It comes very easy to me to just talk in people in different places that I go and that. So that's been a thing that's been good for me, that I never feel like, I shouldn't say never. In depressive states, I definitely felt very lonely. But many times, even when I just have like a few friends that I will see from time to time, that I am like this has really helped with not feeling super lonely. But I've had to realize about myself that I sort of have a problem with hyperindependence, that from my childhood with an autistic brother that took all the attention pretty much, and feeling I cannot rely on other people. I feel let down so many times. So the people that are supposed to love me and take care of me are just not there. It's safer to just stay by myself, you know. But all these things, it's not conscious strategies we come up with. And so And it's also difficult, because you have that situation where sometimes I've tried to be part of things when you just feel like I don't belong here. I do not like it here. Of course, you shouldn't be part of that thing. But then you can become a little blind to maybe I actually keep to myself a bit too much. Maybe I miss out on some relationships that actually some people maybe I could be with. But since I have this hyper independence trait, it just I don't even think sometimes about reaching out to certain people or asking for help. So something that I tell other people that you should, when it comes to coaching and training and stuff, that it's like, there's nothing shameful with asking for help. It's just a good investment. Like the best investment you can do is in yourself. But of course, it's not just about like a coaching service or something. But I realized that for me, it sits so deep to ask for help and something. But yeah, it's such a hot today, guys. But yeah, I in many ways, for many different reasons that I won't have time to go into them all, I've had to realize that sometimes when let's put it like this, when I can feel good enough having the few friends I have and moving around and being social in my life and working with people, also clients, I can feel like my social needs are met. But then let's say I end up in a situation where I've been in a more depressive state. Now I actually feel lonely, and maybe if I had not been so fucking independent all the time and invested more in certain relationships, I would have better support if I dared to ask for help, if I dared to ask for support at those times. So that's been something more the last few years I've really worked on. The good relationships I had, the people I actually see, care about me and love me, go out of my way to try to maintain those relationships better. Maybe actually be honest too and be like, I don't feel good, like I could use talking to someone. And yeah, that's been a thing. Let me pause now. I think I've gotten most things I want to say. I think I've gotten many major points out of the way, but if I just to summarize very quickly certain other things, like when I'm here now, Uncommon Sense YouTube channel, I have a coaching business, and the quick journey there is that, after I finished the journalism studies, I have work, I take little jobs, part-time jobs, so I have some money, but I have really low expenses, so that's fine, and I'm just learning about training and stuff. Realizing that I probably want to do my own thing, that I'm not just a trainer. I've had to work on so many internal things as well, this holistic approach. But it's like there's no holistic gym where you could just go work as a holistic coach. I realized I'm going to have to do my own thing. And I started, of course, doing the YouTube channel and Instagram after like 1 year of doing all these things. And I just realized that a good place to start is to, if I'm going to train, like coach people online, which is probably going to be a lot of, when training is part of it, I should have some experience doing that in person too. So, I went to educate myself to a personal trainer, which is really such a waste of time. I felt like I knew more than most teachers there from what I learned online. It's really just that if you don't have connections in a gym, you need kind of the license. So it's more like I paid to get a job. The main benefit of that education, because I already knew so many things we were learning theoretically, was that you could be around people that also want to be trainers and kind of practice training each other, right? I work in this gym, afterwards commercial gym. I kind of, by connection, happening to know someone, I kind of get the best personal training job you can get when you're working for someone else. Really, you'll make more money than most people, with a nice degree working in an office with. Personal training, it's like in a luxury place. But I just ended up hating it there for many reasons. I just couldn't feel at ease there. Like even though the pay is good, not to spend too much time on it. It's like now is when I'm like, okay, I saw that from the previous commercial gym where the pay is terrible, but I got freedom to work the way I wanted. Here is kind of the opposite. I feel controlled. I feel watched all the time, but the pay is good. I kind of see what things I like. So I start for the first time actively asking for coaching clients, putting out selling content, if you will, offering a coaching service. I book some sales calls and it goes much better than I thought to get some clients. So I get 5 and I decide if I get 5 more, I'll start my own coaching business or I'll leave this other place. And that happened. And a quick side note about that is that's when I also noticed when I started working a lot from home, even though I first felt the freedom and like I'm really doing my own thing now, wow, this is where I started noticing these things. I'm too isolated and I don't really know what to do about it now. And it's like from this point that I've gradually come out and worked on not being less of a fucking hyper-independent person, right? And ever since it's just been growing the stuff, right? But so what I want to say as some kind of conclusion thing that I really realized throughout these years is that initially with panic attack phase, it felt so much like, so many of the old things that I had troubles with, it was just gone. I've never felt like this. It felt nostalgic, like being a child again, because we come into this world mostly pure. I mean, we can get affected by or if our mom is in a bad state when she's pregnant with us, and we're going to inherit some even emotional trauma through our DNA. But mostly we come into this world pure, and then we say in the Christianity, the fallen state, we fall away from God. We pick up all this trauma, a lot from our closest caregivers, but also experiences we have in programming. Society tells us you should do this, you shouldn't like this, you're not allowed to do this and that. And when I faced so many fears in this panic attack phase, a lot of that fell away, it felt like. And I could see clearly, I could remember who I truly was and who I was meant to be in this world. And I found God this way. And I don't follow, because I felt like I found and understood what God is, even on the inside. I've never been able to. I kind of wish. So I know I would have so much just personally to gain to be like, oh, I'm a Christian. Because I know some people that follow me are going to be Christians. And I can like people. I think that many Christians and Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists, it's really the same God that we know. I see the religions as different paths there, But this is the reason I feel like I just know that, these, even the commandments in Christianity, we all intrinsically know. You shouldn't steal, you shouldn't kill, you should love thy neighbor, you should love thy enemy, meaning that you shouldn't be like a pussy pushover, let them hurt you, but it's about letting go, not hating, not acting out of hate, right? Understanding that everyone has their journey, everyone is doing the best with what they've been dealt, right? But so, because of this first thing with the panic attacks, it felt so much like so many things were just done with me. What I realized is that we come from the same, we have our same foundation of building blocks, our same wounds, our same insecurities, that we might reach new levels, and then we get to enjoy a time of feeling like for instance, I felt after the panic attacks, I've always worried what people think about me. I don't want to appear in this way. I have to try to appear in this way. Suddenly I felt like I don't really give a shit, that people talk shit about my back, that they don't really understand my new lifestyle, because I know what I'm about, that I'm doing it for good reasons. But I had to see that even in closer relationships, like with your parents, siblings, and romantic relationships especially, these things are going to challenge you the most on these things. So you're going to notice. Like, for instance, that fear of abandonment I realized that I have after having to face the panic attacks, thinking everyone is going to think I'm a weirdo and they're going to not want to be with me. Like, why is he freaking out in a regular situation? I saw that it wasn't true. So now I don't have this same fear of just expressing my authentic self, right? But then I see in particular situations, I feel like, for instance, the girl, like, oh, I can't act like this because she will leave me, and I will end up alone, or with particular people, maybe I have to, even though I don't like this, I have to do this because and then I've also noticed a thing like with this society we live in now, the sort of unnatural thing with social media. Like, I think it affects everyone. You see how much people try to show something. As human beings, we're really great at missing the point of what it's really about. Like, food. It's not really about it's tasty sensation in my mouth. It's about getting nutrition for your biological vehicle, the one you've been giving, like fuel, good fuel. And when you live in a natural environment, all the natural foods that are good for you are going to taste good, yeah? That because they taste good because they tell you that you need these. But then we live in a world where, everything is exaggerated and unnatural, and we get manipulated, and suddenly we miss the point that, hey, eating was always about fueling me, giving myself good nutrition and energy so I'm healthy and strong. Not, I want nice taste in my mouth at the price of getting fucking sick, fat, Same thing with social media. Social media should be an extension. Like, the important part of that you feel good, you're doing what you want to do in life, you have relationships that you enjoy, and then on social media you can share some things that you do, right? But so much it becomes like, I want people, because we're social creatures and we think about there's the function of us that's to a degree is healthy, right? That if a person that literally didn't care what other people think about them could turn out quite unpleasant at times, right? So we're supposed to care to some degree, but suddenly on social media, it's like, I show off that I'm in this nice, cool place, and I'm happy and surrounded by people and stuff is going on. I'm really miserable, over a relationship. I hate my job, but you know, I have to show everyone I have a great time. Oh, people like it now. I get a dopamine kick. It feels good a little bit in the moment. I'm still fucking miserable and lost in my life. But the important part is everyone thinks I'm doing well, you know. You see, we so easily miss the point. We get corrupted like that. And what I've seen is, because I've always wanted on Uncommon Sense to be as authentic as I can, I think I've never lied about anything. If you like really present something, the facts of something in a way they're not. But I can see at times, this is what I'm talking about, falling into something arrogant or something that either something arrogant, like I need to be this fucking cool giga chad and show that off all the time, or the other, when it's not so much about arrogant, but just feeling the pressure, like all these people that follow me. You know, I'm not feeling good now and I'm failing. I'm supposed to be the guy that made it. I need to keep it together, you know, at least. And I'm like, So I've seen how some of these things, our insecurities, our wounds, our fears, we overcome them, but then we reach new levels of having to face them and we have to do it again. And that's been a recent thing for me with Uncommon Sense this year. I really felt like when the channel blew up, I grinded, right? I grinded for years with barely nothing happening, you know, and I just still could make a living from it to get clients because I'm so niched that the people that found me, they really like me, right? Then I had this old video go viral and suddenly 5,000 took 5 years, and then I tripled that in like a month, and then added another 7K a bit slower after that. But suddenly having a bigger following, I realized that shit, now I suddenly like really feel like I have all these people depending on me. And it's great now when I'm feeling great and I'm putting out my stuff. But now suddenly I go through a tougher time and like, oh, I can't be that guy anymore. Oh, I'm failing them. I have to try to, you know, at least say something. And I notice even when I start talking about things like that, right? Even if I'm honest about the way I'm feeling, it's still a bit of putting on some kind of mask that, you know, I'm still okay though, but it's been a tougher time now. It's really hard to just own that fucking, guys, you know, I made it. I made a huge difference in my life. I'm overall in such a better position, but man, I felt terrible lately. And, you know, it's hard. It's difficult, but I'm challenged. I'm trying to grow in every fucking way. All the time, all the fucking time. And that's what I had initially planned as the title of this video, that I'll see what I end up calling it now. It turns out so long. I just have a few minutes left of space to record. But fucking never giving up. Always rising again. That comes with the training. You get injuries. Okay, okay, what can I do to work around it? Try to rehab it. Get up again. Try again. It started with the panic attacks. Fuck. I couldn't go to work now. I couldn't make it again. Okay, fuck, reset, up again, next day, try again. Same thing. Oh, I got to this place. All my fears are gone. I feel so free now. Fuck, I fell hard. I feel like this again. What I'm supposed to do? Fuck it, get up again, try again. And you will always rise to a new level. That's the path I found. I am very happy. I've reached a point in my life, becoming a person that I never thought I could be. I'm still far away from certain things that I like, but fuck it. When I felt like I've fallen, I'll get up again, I'll try again. I know that this persistence of being super honest, facing yourself, everything that you've done wrong, all your fears, all the lies you tell yourself, all the mistakes you've done, okay, fuck it. I'll use that, I'll try better, get up again, try again, never give up, and you will get to where you want to be in the end. Okay, guys, didn't know exactly how long it was going to be, how much you're going to be focused on training and other things. I'm going to have to call it something else than a natural bodybuilding transformation, because as you can see, it's been a huge part of it. You see how I even use my patterns in the gym of pushing too hard to understand myself. I've told my story now, but I want you to, this is the way of being. Uncommon Sense is a way of being, right? It's not just, bodybuilding. It's not, you know, it's a certain way of being in the world. I want to, because I'm going to attract people that see some similarities between themselves and me. But what I ultimately want is not that you should become me. I want you to go on the same path as me. And our paths are not supposed to be the exact same path, but they can be paths that are together. We can hold hands. You know, it's a little gay, you know, like you say metaphorically. We walk on similar paths that align, right, towards the best self, our best life, our best self, our best life experience. That's what I found. That's the path I'm on. That's the path I'm inviting you to join me on, the Uncommon Sense path. Okay, guys, please like and comment. It all helps more people find their way here, the algorithm, so it's very much appreciated. Definitely, you're very curious what came up for you as you watch a long video of this, of mine. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, working on ourselves, body, mind, and soul, becoming that person. I don't even have to say more this time. Becoming that person. You know, that person that you know you could be. All the things that you know you're supposed to be, that life has taught you that no, you shouldn't. No, it's too much. Don't dream too big. Oh no, it's too scary. No, this is in the way. The person that you could be, if you just fucking threw all of that to the side, or you stepped over it, and you fell on the way, and you got up again and got past, that person, that's what I help you do with my holistic bodybuilding coaching. Send me a DM or Instagram or email me. I'll get back to you with my different programs and offers. You can pick up my training book. That one is focused more on the actual bodybuilding process, but still with this larger inner perspective, but very much still on the training, like technique and programs and exercises and so on, right? Yeah, you can pick up my training book, and please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building myself, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys, an uncommon sense mindset. Peace.